Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's May 31st. This will be our chart listen for the day. And as you can see here, we had another big day down, but we bounced off that, and so far in the overnight we're trending higher. That doesn't mean that we'll continue to trend higher there. We did looks like we bounced off the midline here, so we could push higher. This market just wants to go higher for whatever reason. It keeps pushing higher, and so if it goes higher tomorrow, don't argue with it. If it continues lower, just get on board and go with it till it stops. Seems like every day they rally it back somehow. Even when you have a big sell-off, somehow they rally it back. So this market wants to go up for now. So um, even though I don't see any real reason for it, you can't argue with the market. So if it continues to go higher, just continue to go higher with it. That's all we can do. So the market doesn't always do what we think it should do, and you'll never win arguing with it. I learned that the hard way. So if the market goes up tomorrow, just go with it. But here it is. You can see we're rallying there. That doesn't mean anything. That could change considerably between now and tomorrow's trading day. But you can see we sold off, but we had a bounce off that low and closed well off that low. So um, yeah, we'll just have to see what tomorrow brings. We might just get an inside bar and start working sideways again like this craziness. So who knows? But anyway, let's flip over to the intraday chart. Not a lot of trades today, even though we had a lot of movement. It was there just weren't a lot of setups and a lot of good, easy to read price action. So let's flip over there and take a look. Okay, here's how I was looking at it. It looked like a spike and channel down, but in the end, I don't believe this. I'm not going to say this channel is not valid because you can see it working off the midlines, but you can see we look like we got a confirmation in here, but we never went lower and we just reversed out of here. So I think you're better off not playing this. If you leave that off, you got the trend down, you got a break, a new low, and then you kind of reversed out of there. And so that makes more sense. So that's the way I'm going to play it. The other trend line just never did really confirm itself and come into play like it should. We did get some resistance off of it down here, but didn't it didn't really play out like you would expect. So I think this was more accurate by playing it this way. And you needed to play this channel anyway, regardless, even if you saw the bigger one. But you had to be real patient today. There's just not much here. I mean, even though we're in a real strong downtrend, there's just no setups here. I don't see really anything I like in that big move down there. I mean, if you understand what's going on, this is actually a pretty strong trend down until you got right in here. So maybe some of these stronger ones, but anytime you enter in congestion like that, you're especially right off the midline, you're taking a chance. So I just don't think anything was worth taking. 7 o'clock came down through here. I don't see anything in there that I would trade short, and there's not really anything back to the upside either. And you can see we're just kind of chopping around here. It looked like we were really going to go into a range, and even though this is sideways, there's no consistent resistance. There's pretty consistent support, but no consistent uh, resistance at all. So it's just not much to trade here. And on this one, you should have drawn your trend line down, and you would have probably had it either like this or something like this right here. It probably looks pretty accurate. And as you notice here, this is all within the. There's a news item here at 9 o'clock that's high volatility, and so that's really within that. I think I set it from 850 to about 905 or so, and you can see it didn't make much difference. So by 905 or so, you were good. So really, there's nothing in here. I did mark this one trade here. We'll talk about it, but there's just nothing here to really trade. There's no setup to go short here, unfortunately. It looks too sideways. You're just an inside bar. Same thing down here, no rejection. Um, There's no real reversal here or anything. It looks like you're coming back into some resistance, so it's dangerous trading there. You did get the close outside and two legs up here with a very bearish bar. I like that one. And it does look like a failed break higher if you take this line and maybe it is a failed break higher, but if you put it across there, you can clearly see that resistance across there. So that's a failed breakout. And maybe that is a range there and you just had a failed breakout and you couldn't quite get back there on this one. Um, so, but I like that trade, especially because of the break and two legs up and then the failed break above the double top there. Uh, if you catch that one trade, that's a pretty good trade. It may be all you need. But notice we're coming down. You get a first entry, push down, you come back, you get a second entry, and it retests that. And it really makes a little double top there as well. But it retests that double top here also. And so that's a nice failure, in my opinion. I really thought it would go lower than it did there. All the same, it's still a failed breakout right there. So if you took that one, I made it green. It's not perfect setup. And then by the time it gets here, you can almost call that a triple test and another bearish bar right off the resistance there. So you can take that one too. I marked both of those green. They're real close. If you took them and you understand what's going on, the other problem with this one is it's inside the 850 mark. It's not quite 9 o'clock, and so maybe you take it. The closer you push that, the bigger chance you got that you could run into an issue. But anyway, then of course we finally break through down here, and notice what happens. You get a first entry, and you make a new low, and you make a lower high here on a failed second entry long. When prices break lower there, it's going to be a failure. And as long as you got room to get out, you probably should take that. The other thing is here, notice the little, let me make this bigger. That's what I call a gap. Notice there's no overlap between those two bars. And usually most all bars have some overlap. And a lot of times this bar will jump up here and trade up a few ticks and then come back and tick down and then go higher. They'll fill that gap a lot of times. Well, this time they didn't fill it. So when this comes back here, a lot of times you'll see this bar come back and fill that gap and then turn back up on you. So that's a little bit of concern there, and another reason I made that one green and not red. So learn to spot those little gaps like that. They tell you something. So anyway, we continued down here. There's some nice bearish bars, but look how congested. It is a really strong downtrend there. There's a lot of selling going on there. But all the same, you got to be careful in that stuff. That's a really nice signal bar, but I never like to go low at the very low of the day, on the very low, under the very low of a bar that makes the low of the day. Just not a good idea. And then, of course, we just start chopping along here. There's no real rejection down here for this bar, so that's the reason I don't like it. This one was tempting. It really was. But it's just too risky. You need a higher low or something there. Some reason to want to look for a reversal. And you see we never really got a reversal. We just worked sideways here and really just kind of worked sideways for the rest of the day until we had the little rally. But we do get a break, and we just barely get a new low here, and then that's when it kind of reverses on. But anyway, we finally get a failed break here, and it leads into this rally. But you get the close outside, a couple of legs up, and you could treat this again like a failed break out of this range right here as it makes a new high, big bearish bar. I like going short there. That was really the first or the second trade of the day. So you had to sit here. I mean, from 7 o'clock to 10, you only got two really half decent setups, and the rest of them were, the other couple were green and a little bit risky, to be honest. So this turns out to be a pretty good trade. It doesn't go more. It just keeps chopping around until finally it breaks out, makes a lower low. Then you get a first entry, second entry with a big bearish bar. As long as you got room to get out, take that trade. It's a little aggressive, but you try to come back once, twice. This is like the third. A lot of attempts to come back, but You get another decent bar here, but there's not really room to get out before that low. It ends up going lower, but you don't know. You see where it bounced. It could have gone higher. So you just can't take that one. Of course, you get the failed break lower, and that makes the low a new low for the day. Just barely, but it does. That's good enough to call this good over here. And then we rally out of there. There's no reversal setup here or anything that would make you want to go long, but you finally do make a double top here and get a first entry, second entry. This is really sideways stuff, but because this is all bouncing off this trend line, you may treat this is a double top, so that's like a new high. So first entry, second entry. And this actually opened here and looked very bearish for a minute and closed really strong. You're taking a chance going long right there, so I did make it green. But if it breaks higher there, you'll probably get a scalp even if it fails and turns back. Which it does fail and come back, but it's only temporary. Then you get a double test here. You might look at that as a triple test. If you did, maybe you take that break higher. I didn't mark that one. Maybe you take that trade. This is the better looking for sure triple test, and your signal bar is no good there. Then you're just chopping along, and finally you get another nice signal bar off the low down here. If it breaks higher, just go high with it, go long with it. Fails out the top, but no setup. There is a second entry short there, and that is a break of the green channel and a move to a new high. So there's reasons to believe prices might sell off, but the signal bar is no good here. If you had a decent signal bar, maybe you take that trade. But it fails out the top, runs straight down, fails out the bottom, and reverses. I like this trade. As we often say, those failures when you got support that's really that strong and that obvious, those failed breakouts often lead to be important price points for the rest of the day. And sometimes they're the low or high of the day. And you can see that was the low really for the rest of the day. And so it's aggressive because you probably want to wait on a high or low or something, which never comes. But I like those trades and learn to spot them. Study them if you're not already studying them. You might have looked at this as a failure, but it's right into that previous resistance, so I don't like that. Notice we do have, this is a repeat pattern. There's that little double bottom again, or double top again, and then a first entry, second entry. Looks a lot like the previous one, so it's kind of it's basically a repeat pattern. We pull back here, but no setup. Finally come back here again, but this is your signal bar. This bar is higher, not a very good setup. There's a higher low here, but it's an engulfing bar, and if you really probably should wait for that one to close. And notice it closed right into the EMA, so I wouldn't take that long right there, and because you see what happens, it just it can't get back through that EMA. You want it to be on the other side of the EMA. Pulls back, and it still struggles to get through the EMA and finally does and traps people, and it just keeps working sideways. So I don't see anything in here I like. It's just no really good setups. You got a first entry there, another first entry. There was a second entry when it broke higher here, no signal bar. Maybe this is a triple test, but then you get an inside bar. Signal bar is no good here. I don't think you want to go short yet, so there's no shorts. Finally, it breaks lower. This is another one you say, okay, well, maybe you go long here, but that's still inside that downtrend channel, and it's not a very good signal bar. I mean, it's bullish enough. It probably fits our criteria, but I'd want to see that a little stronger than that. When it couldn't tick up one more tick above that, that concerned me. Then you're running up, you get a break, and we're just chopping around. Again, there's no real good setups here. This is just a first entry, and it looks congested as it continues, and that just takes you into 230. There's just not much here today. It's just one. Again, we've had some of these days lately, even when we get a lot of movement, that it's not clear, and you don't get a lot of easy setups, and unfortunately, you just have trading days like that, so there's not much you can do about it, but maybe tomorrow will be better. this market's uh, this market's just a little strange and wild right now, and uh, this debt ceiling stuff is probably going to cause the market to be up. One minute they've got it resolved and they think they're coming to agreement, and the market wants to go up with that, and then the next minute, no, that fell through. Now we don't look like you're going to make it happen. We're going to possibly default, and then the market goes down, and they're just, it's just too much craziness going on. So just trade carefully. Don't force trades. Wait for sure things. Um, I mean, there's not much more than you can say than that. So, um, sometimes it's good if you start out a day and it's going, it's already 10 or 11 o'clock and you hadn't had any setups, or you had one or two and you didn't really like them and you held on them, then maybe just get up and take the day off. I mean, it's really, because what'll happen is you'll force yourself into a bad trade because you feel like you should have taken a trade, and then you take a loss, and then one loss leads to a second loss because now you've gotten your emotions all scrambled up, and people tend to revenge trade, want to get their money back and at least get back to scratch, and you just dig a deeper hole. So just be careful on days like this is all I'm saying. But anyway, I'm really late getting this out at 7:15, and I'm just now finishing it up, so it's probably going to be another 30, 45 minutes before I can get it processed and up. So I'm going to I'm going to cut you loose now, and we'll be back again to do it tomorrow. And actually, tomorrow will be Thursday, and we'll be wrapping up our week. It's a short week because of the Monday holiday, but I need a short week to catch up. So I'm getting close to catching up. I'm getting close with my emails, so I should be back to normal uh, by the end of this week and starting next week. So thanks for bearing with me. But I'm going to wrap it up. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you